Welcome along to the EXFL Tier 2 Season 9 Hungarian Grand Prix. We're here for round 11 out of 22, the halfway point of the season, the final round of the first half of Season 9, before we take a 1 week break, and then we'll come back for Spa to begin the second half. Got 10 in at the moment, still waiting on Frosty Life to make it 11, as we see the first cars arriving out onto the track. Laser Gamer on the intermediates. Eggs in the garage. Chaz F1 becoming the third Centurion of EXFL Tier 2, entering his 100th race tonight. And I'm sure a lot of people will be hoping he does well. Gekkerbelg returning after missing a few rounds, back in the Haas. Morgan, third in the standings. Currently 23 points off, but still within a win. So could mathematically take the lead in the drivers today. But he'll need to do quite a lot and hope others struggle. We've got Christian in the Haas, reserving once again. Oh, okay, fair. And then we've got championship leader Seb, who's led the championship for every single race this season since the first one in Bahrain. Eggy back in the Mercedes. Hopefully no issues with connections this time. And then Oran. Apparently it's not Oran. In the Aston Martin. Has won 4 of the last 5 races. Has at one point 70 odd points behind Seb. Has closed the gap to just 13 points. And you never know with how the race could go today. We could see a new championship leader. Oran has certainly made a statement in the last few weeks since China, and he's the one to beat at the moment, and Seb will be looking over his shoulders. We've got Small Nick also reserving in the McLaren, and Arab Chubster once again in the Kick Sauber, and then Frosty should be joining soon to get in the Red Bull. So yeah, drifting unfortunately not racing tonight, hurt his leg or something, so it's just one Alpine, as Alpine do lead the constructors by 60 points in front of not just RB but Aston Martin too. They are level, are RB and Aston, on 160 points. Obviously Seb has scored all 160 for the team. Josh Hewitt hasn't scored any, and Oren has scored 147, and his teammate Nathan has scored 13 to make it all level. Laser Gamer currently on his interrun, but Oren obviously on an outlap seems to be quicker because he's obviously on a dry compound. Just checking the chat, see if there's any. And I think Jack may also be joining as he for the first time in a few weeks. There he is. So that'll be 12. Okay. Race should be dry. There we go, there's Jack. Should get in his Mercedes as Morgan sets the pace then. Full second ahead of Christian, 1.3 ahead of Eggy. And there's Frosty Life too. So they should hopefully get in their cars and we'll be good. As Chubster goes to within 3/10 of Morgan. A 15.5, very solid banker for the Alpine driver. We see Chaz F1 now in the Williams car. Finishing the first set split. It's a 27 flat as Jack gets in his car. Seb's still on the pit lane. Oran on the mediums. We'll see what he can do. At 26.8. Flying into the first set turn. It's a very interesting track with this new game in terms of how much battery you can use. You definitely want to use it a lot in the first and last sector in the middle. There's not really much opportunity to. Just got to keep it in hot lap. Anyway, look further to Chaz. 53.6 for the middle. We'll see what Oran can do. Flies around the corner. 53.2. Even on the mediums, he is finding a lot of pace. But he's still got to beat Seb, who has been on pole the most times this season. As Chaz goes into a 15.1. Eggy improves, but I think Oran's going to dip his mediums into the 1 minute 14s. Across the line in due time. A 14.7 to go 4/10 clear of Chaz on the mediums. Really solid effort from the Aston Martin then, who I think enjoys this track. as Eggy did go again. And now we'll see what Seb can do in response. Seb, who's had 8 poles in his Tier 2 career, looking for a 9th. I believe he's had 5 poles this season alone. Oran has had 2 poles, Saudi and Imola. Morgan, 2 poles, Bahrain and China this season. And yeah, Seb's had the other 5, and obviously Drifting had 1 in Austria. But yeah, that is a really good time from Oran. Sometimes the lap just hooks together, and it looked pretty planted. Chubster, 10th up, currently 1.1 seconds down. Can probably get him ahead of Gekkeberg, who's currently a second off. There we go, Frosty's in his car. So waiting for Laser now on the dry compound of tyres this time. Jack about to start his lap. DRS Open then, riding aboard with a Mercedes. Reaching 8th gear, plunging into turn 1. Heavy braking zone as he climbed down the gears. Make sure not to take too much of the inside curve. Very nicely done. DRS Open really quickly. Sometimes you want to delay it so you focus more on the traction and then get the power down. Into turn 2, pretty much the opposite of 1. Long left and then flat through 3. And then riding all the way up onto the grass there. 27.0 into turn 4. So easy to run wide or cut the inside and get an invalidation. Penalties are going to be an interesting thing here with warnings, as he takes 5 very nicely through the 6 and 7 complex. Pretty good through the chicane. And then the corners just keep coming at you. Left, right. Little bit of time to breathe. Then left again, then right, as he finishes the technical part of the track in sector 2. Again, quite easy to run wide and invalidate there. 53.9 for the middle sector. Jack, who made his debut in Canada and may have raced one other time, has shown he is good in qualifying over 1 lap. So we'll see what he can do to place that Mercedes. His teammate's currently 3rd. Can he join him on the 2nd row across the line to go P4, and does join him on the 2nd row, 11 thousandths in front of Morgan. See what Laser can do. I'm just going to quickly change my batteries. If I can get them. As Laser comes around the final couple corners, we'll see what he can do across the line, and then I'll do it. As everyone else is in the pit lane. So around the final corner for Laser on the medium compounds of tyres. He's also not afraid to do quite a good 1-lap wonder, but goes P9 on the mediums. Right, there we go. 10 times on the board then, still waiting for Frosty Life to exit the pit lane, and now Seb, as it is getting more overcast compared to when the session started, as it was sunny. I have no clue if it's going to rain towards the end of quali, so the drivers need to get their times on the board now. But yes, championship leader Seb. I'm sure he's been feeling the pressure recently of how Oran has been eking into his lead. 70 points goes down to 50, then 40, then 20, and now it's 13. As Oran won the British Grand Prix last time out, Seb came 2nd. So Oran obviously got the fastest lap as well to gain 8 points on the RB driver. So 13, if Oran wins today and Seb finishes 4th, they will be level on points. But because Oran has had 5 wins to Seb's 2 or 3, something like that. More wins, basically. For the first time, Oran will lead the championship. And they'll be level on points at the halfway mark of the season, which would be brilliant. But don't discount Morgan as well. 23 points off. Only 10 points off Oran. As Frosty's also out on track now. So around the final corner for Seb. 8 poles to his name, and he's looking for a 9th. He's joint 3rd on the all-time list. And if he gets one more, he will solidify P3 as his own. He's going to need 3 more to get 2nd and 6 more to get 1st on the all-time list. But for now, He has excelled in qualifying, but the race is where the points are scored. But to give yourself the best chance, you've got to start at the front. So, into turn 2. Seb's taking it nicely. Into 3. This will be one of his 2 runs, I'm sure he'll do. So let's see what he does in the first set to split. It's a 26-9. I believe Oran did a 0.8, so he's currently a 10th down. And yeah, it's going to take some lap to get close to that. Gekabel, go about him in the first set to 27-0. Found a 10th and a half. Chubster up by just under a 10th. Can he get himself in front of Gekabel? As Nick got by half a second, but he has backed off. Crossing the line, does get himself in front. 800ths off Morgan. We'll look back to Seb. 53-5 in the middle set to really solid stuff from the championship leader. Frosty begins his lap as well. As Nick, I'm sure, will probably go again. Gekabel has found nearly 4 tenths. As we'll look back to Seb then, round the final corner for the RB. And we'll cross the line in due time. A 14-7 is the time to beat. Crosses the line, it's a 14-9. 2 tenths under for Seb and Oran. But that is still on his medium run. And we'll see what he can do. And Eggy goes again as well. Frosty, 27-1 as Gekabel goes up to 4th. Finding time as what can Eggy do into the first set to split then? A 27-0 as well, slightly down, but he can find the time. Is Nick going again? He's flashing. Up by half a second, 26-8. So don't discount Nick as well. But he's on really low battery, and yet he's still done that kind of first sector. Unless they were doing 25-8s, then he's a whole second off. Frosty has backed off on his lap. As Christian, 400ths off Laser for the top 10, sliding around. Christian, he's still up by half a second, and that would put him around about 6th. Does Nick. So he's just got 2 corners left. Chaz and Oran still in the pit lane, so they're waiting to do their final run. Can Nick find any more time round the final corner? The McLaren will cross the line, DRS open, and he'll pop himself only 8th. He lost a couple tenths. So very close between Jack down to Chubster. As Jack, I believe, is now beginning another run. As Laser's beginning his lap with a bit of a toe. Shouldn't be too close for bother. Into turn 1 then for Jack. How much time is he willing to find? He's got to find at least 2 tenths to get himself in front of Gekabel as he finds himself into turn 2. Eggy invalidated. So we'll see what Jack can do at the end of set to 1. It's going to be a 26-9. He has found a 10th as he slides through turn 4, pushing the car to the max. Exit at turn 5. The rear just seems to be stepping out on him. He took this chicane brilliantly last time. Bit more of a wiggle, but he keeps it planted. Takes a lot of curb, sliding everywhere. Is the Mercedes fully on the limit, trying to find as much time as he can. Right on the limit. Look how much he's sliding as he's nearly 2 tenths up, and he's got to keep it together for 3 more corners and keep it on the track to make sure it's valid. It's one of the most struggling laps I've seen all season. But yeah, if Jack, as Frosty went 6, if Jack can hook this together, it could be as good as the top 5 for the Mercedes driver. Across the line for Jack. Where's it place him? It's 6th, as he did lose a bit of time. But it has managed to put him 6, only 23 thousandths off Gekabel. Pushing as hard as he can, as everyone with just under 4 minutes remaining will be getting ready for their final run. Shout out to Callum, Oran's race engineer. Obviously, Callum finished 2nd in the championship last season and is coaching currently 2nd in the championship. And shout out to last season's world champion Logan, who's currently who was 1st last season, who's currently coaching 1st this season. So top 2 last season, coaching the top 2 this season. But that might change in a race or 2, and I'm sure their respected duos will be trying to do everything they can. As I still wouldn't discount Morgan, but these two are the top two for a reason. And well, unless Morgan does have some really good races, one of these two in 12 weeks' time is going to become world champion. As we have 2.5 minutes left then to set the grid for Hungary. Frosty a 10th down exactly in the first sector as he's got a bit of traffic in front of him. Currently on their outlaps, gearing up for their last run. Oran's been in the pits for quite a long time. Is he really going to try and get pole with a medium run? Because that would be quite bold of him. He has, I wouldn't say bold, but he's made the wrong decision in a few qualifyings recently that have led him in the direction of pole, but in the end it hasn't given him pole. So maybe he'll go out on the softs, and if he does do a soft run, what could he do? What can Chaz do in his 100th race? Had pole for about 10 seconds in his home race last week before Seb stole it right at the end. Seb, who was under massive pressure because he was going to start last. But Chaz then begins his final run in qualifying into turn 1. Right on board with the Williams driver, the DRS Open. Just trying to find those thousandths of a second. Flicks it into turn 2. Very nice indeed. Gets on the power. 3 is easy. Flat as you like. Into the end of sector 1. It's a 26.9. He has found some time, but that is off and invalid, unfortunately, for Chaz F1. And, well, maybe he can save the battery and go again. He's still got over a minute remaining. But those tyres are going to have to take some beating. Gekkeberg starts his lap. Morgan has just began his lap as well. Nick was to the right for some reason. Chubster up by half a tenth. Laser up by nearly a tenth. And Christian's still in the pits, so he'll start last with under a minute to go. Seb begins his final run then, and Oran, followed by Eggy, will be the last over the line, and so will Jack. But maybe Chaz will be the last one over the line if he can find enough to go again. Has he saved battery? Yes, he has. So then, who is the first on a run? I think it's Gekkeberg. The laser's slowing down. He's not got much time to cross the line. 18 seconds. As he bounces over. And he might be the last one to cross the line at this rate. So with 7 seconds to go, he crosses the line. So the first car, when the checkered flag drops, is Gekkeberg. He is up by quite a big margin. How far up can he go up the grid? It's P3 for Gekkeberg. Now we see what Morgan can do. Round the final corner, he's found some time. He goes up to the front row, but a tenth and a half off. Oran still into the wall, someone. Nick goes up to 8th. Great effort from Morgan to get himself with his rivals. And now we see what Seb can do. Who's up by half a second? Seb, who's had 8 poles to his name, rounds the final corner, searching for a 9th. The RB crosses the line, and it's pole position for Seb provisionally, as he's 4 tenths clear of Oran, who's up by nearly 3 tenths. This is going to be fine margins once again. It's Oran versus Seb. Who's going to be on pole at Hungary? It's Oran by a tenth, who takes pole away from Seb. It was close, just over a tenth. Eggy goes P4, and Oran, for the 3rd time this season, is on pole position. Seb gave it his all right at the end. They gave it everything, and still had some time left on the board, as Jack makes it a Mercedes 4-5. And I think we're just waiting on Laser, as that is the end of quali. Oran takes pole, just over a tenth ahead of Seb. Morgan 3rd. 3 thousandths in front of Jack. Eggy, then Gekkeberg completes the 3rd row. Then Chaz will be 7th for his 100th race, along with Nick in 8th. Chubster, then Frosty completes the top 10. Laser and Christian will start 11th and 12th. Just when you think they've... well, mainly Seb, just when you think he's given it his all, there was still that much time on the board to find. So there we go. Oran, P1. Seb, P2. Let's have a look at the sector times. 8-2-2. 7-2-2. It was all in the first sector then. Seems to be Oran's strength. If he can just get the power planted, take the right lines into... Sector 1's really only 3 corners, so If you can ace it, you can ace it. 269, 234, 240, 266. Can't separate them in the other two, but it was the first sector where Seb lost the 10th, and Oran, I might just stick with Oran. It's easier to say. Oran. Oran. Yeah, whatever. Alright, here we go then. 30 seconds when someone readies up to begin the Hungarian Grand Prix in Tier 2 Season 9. And once again, we're going to see the top 3 in the World Championship as the top 3. Who's going to get away well? We know Seb hasn't had the greatest getaways, but that was from pole. He's P2 at the moment, and he has the inside line. And Hungary does usually always serve up something special. Penalty-wise, that's also going to be a deciding factor. Morgan and Jack on hards, everyone else on mediums. A few others going on to hards now. Very interesting. Should be a hard medium or medium hard kind of race, unless there's a safety car, which we haven't had in a while. But here we go then. The ticking noises are going to happen soon. Never mind, they didn't happen at all. The 5 lights go on then at the Hungaroring. It's lights out and away we go with Oren and Seb leading away. The top 2 in the championship, the top 2 on track. But who is going to lead into turn 1 then? Oren keeps to the left and it looks like Seb is not going to go to the inside. Oren leads then as round the outside goes the Mercedes and down the inside goes the Haas car of, I believe, Christian, who goes straight on and causes quite a few collisions. That's left Morgan down in 10th. Because of that, it was bowling all over again as Nick and Christian probably will be disqualified. So, Oren leads out from Seb, from Eggy, Jack, Chaz up to 5th, Gekabel stays 6th, Laser Gamer up to 7th, Chubbs to 8th, Frosty 9th, Morgan unfortunately has dropped down to 10th. So unfortunately, as he has got going, don't know what happened to Christian. Surely that wasn't him or his wheel or disconnected and he went straight on. But whatever the case, he's caused quite the kerfuffle on the opening lap to go just straight into people turn 1 Bottas style, and unfortunately that has left him plumb last. So biggest gainer, Laser Gamer from 11th to 7th. Biggest lose unfortunately is Morgan from 3rd to 10th, but we know how Morgan can fight his way back through the field as hard tyres for Jack, Chubster, Frosty and Morgan. Everyone else on mediums as Oran finishes the first sector. Half a second in front of Seb, then followed by Eggy. Actually, I'm just going to... There we go. Wheel-to-wheel stuff between the Haas and the Williams of Gekabelg and Chaz. Gekabelg trying to get ahead of the Williams, and he has done that. Into P5 goes Gekabelg. Jack struggling a little bit. Eggy is keeping up with the top 2, just about within a second. But I'm sure Seb and Oren have a long race to go, fighting for the win. Could come down to strategy. It could come down to penalties. As Oren makes a mistake there, but hangs on to it. Chubster and Frosty going wheel to wheel into turn 5. And Chubster goes wide there, so that should allow us down the inside. Chaz trying to get in front of Gekabelg as they make contact. And Chaz destroys one of the boards. Laser gets in front of Chaz because of all that. Gekabelg looks like he bounced over the curb there as Chaz made an unorthodox move into the chicane. And now Chaz trying to get in front of Laser's Gekabelg. Looks like he's let them back through. Swaps and positions. There's a Laser also. There must have been maybe an illegal overtake, actually. As both of them have let Chaz through into 5th again. So Laser stays where he is. That allows Frosty and Morgan, who got in front of Chubster as well, to all be in a bit of a DRS chain. As Chaz 1.7 behind Jack, bit on his own. 1.8 to Eggy, who's lost DRS. The top 2 emerge away like predicted. Really don't know what happened to him into turn 1. But yeah, 6-car fight is going wide there as Chubster 4 P5. And this is going to rattle on us down the inside. Laser makes contact with Kian. That was opportunistic. And Kian stays in front. Laser, the ever-aggressor, as Frosty's now on the back of him. And Morgan will be looking to clear these lot, but on the slower compounded tyre. As Chaz already gets a warning and into the wall. And out of the race, Gekabelg. And we do have a safety car. Gekabel may have just lost it. Sometimes that happens to you at 4. Where you're losing it one way, you correct it the other way, and you go completely that way into the wall. Christian did say he's really sorry. He doesn't know what happened, so I don't think that was him. But if that does get reported, I'm sure you'll get a hefty penalty or something. But we've unfortunately lost Gekabelg. I was going to mention the top 3 in the championship along with Gekabelg. They all have 4 victories. Which one of them is going to be the first to get their 5th? It's not going to be Gekabelg at the moment. And Oren Pitts, Seb stays out. This is a crucial moment. And I'm sure Morgan will stay out. He's on the hards. So, Oran taking the gamble then. Is he going to go onto the hards to go to the end? Like he did kind of in Spain. A 30-odd lap stint on the hard compound tyres. We're seeing it again. Number 95 exits the pit lane. And Frosty Life decides to follow him in on that as well. So very interesting stuff. The pit lane is kind of long here. I'll just ask Kian what happened. Right. Oran exits the pit lane in 9th on the hard compound tyres. Frosty is pitted for mediums, actually, so he will definitely not be going to the end. So it looks like Frosty might be doing medium, which isn't actually a bad shout. Oh, as Oren's already saying he's got 2 track limit penalties as into the pit lane comes Nick and Frosty again. So Frosty may be going onto the hards. Back onto his hards, potentially, to go to the end. That's going to be even more of a challenge. But if it saves him time, fair dues. Oh, Oran got a warning under safety car. So that could be big for the end of the race. As Kian is currently typing, turn 6 bump, screwed him. And I think it was because of slight front wing damage. So yeah, I think Kian just lost it on his own, unfortunately. A very heavy crash. And obviously it's a virtual world, so obviously they're going to be okay, but still. Still waiting for Christian to join the pack. So Frosty is now back on his hards. I believe they are the ones yeah, they are. Nick on the hards as well. So they're doing the same thing as Oren. Nothing for Seb. So Seb, who usually is one of the first if he's fighting guys for a win, he's usually one of the first to get a penalty. But in this case, it's the opposite. Oran is 1 warning away. He's got to go the rest of the race without getting a single warning. Otherwise, he's met with a 3-second time penalty. And yes, while he did win last week by 10 seconds, this week could prove a bit more closer, because obviously Oran's going to be in the lead when these lot in front make their stops. If there's no more safety cars. If they make their stops. But Seb will be chasing Oran down. And even if Seb doesn't close all the way to Oran, if he gets within 3 seconds, if he gets another warning, that could be the win. As Christian has caught the pack. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say Oran at this rate. It's so much easier. So then Seb will lead them away on the restart. He's got 2 Mercedes right behind him of Eggy and Jack. And another Mercedes-powered car of Chaz with a penalty. Seb will climb through the acceleration and get ready to go right towards the line. Now he's gone. As Chaz trying to get eager on the power. He's already in front of Jack. He might have to give that back as he is slowing down. And through goes Laser Gamer. And he might send it on the pair of them, which he does. He makes it 3 wide into turn 1. And the Mercedes gets caught out because of that. As Jack falls down the order due to, and that might allow Oren to gain a place. It does. As Jack versus Chubster. Laser versus Morgan. Morgan to the inside. Now Laser will have the inside. Morgan has to hang it around the outside. Blast his battery to stay in front, which he is doing. And he's going to get into P4. And Laser can't do anything to defend that. So Morgan using his battery wisely. Already down to 27% after 4 corners. As we see fighting in the background of Frosty, Chubster and Christian. So Oren already up to 6th. Then Laser 5th. Morgan up to 4th then. As Chaz went round the outside of Laser and Jack to stay in front. As Jack is back in front of Oren. As Oren has made a mistake there. And now he's gone off, and that's nearly a warning. A small Nick now gets in front of Oren. What is happening to Oren? He's stuck in a gear. I think that's why he lost so much time. Oren's now dropping down the order. He was stuck in 2nd gear through those corners. Don't know why. Oren with issues into the penultimate corner down the inside of Frosty. And now he's lost a lot of time as he's still struggling. It's runner-up in the championship. Seb already has a 1 second advantage to Eggy. 7/10 clear. Chaz as Morgan all on the back of him. These two had their issues in Britain. Hopefully there's no more to come, as it is very difficult to overtake around here. Chaz, a little bit of a slide out of turn 1. Morgan sees his opportunity to go to the inside as Chaz hangs it around the outside beautifully. As Morgan can't really find a gap to have good traction. And Chaz, great defence. He's learned a thing or two in these 100 races he's been in. And he currently holds on to 3rd. But that will be another warning. Laser currently holding down 5th. Number 5. As I'm sure Jack will hope to gain. Nick P7 in the DRS train. Frosty. And then Oren really struggling. I do not know why. And at the moment, it's small Nick who has a pretty good advantage now. And I wouldn't discount him then. Oh! Big bump there for Laser Gamer. Rejoins luckily into no one. But we saw that the car just went nearly up in the air there. As he went right on the curb, which sent him off. Gets a 3 second for it. And now he's lost a place to Small Nick and Jack. So, even better for the McLaren driver, who doesn't have to really stop again in this race. Still says safety car. Hopefully that'll go away soon. Still a second between Seb and Eggy. No DRS. Chaz versus Morgan into turn 1. And it looks like Morgan has this covered, but can Chaz go back round the outside? Can't quite make it stick. A little bit of contact there to send Chaz wide. Looked all fair. So Morgan finds himself in 3rd on the hard compound tyres. He's going to go long into this race. And as the mediums start to wear, maybe he can gain on the top 2. Nick keeping with the Mercedes as we saw that. Jack goes off, gets a warning, gets a penalty. As what about Oren, who's all over the back of Frosty? As going off there is Laser. And that's going to really hold these guys up. And Oren hits the back of Frosty a little. Oren's just got to keep a cool, calm head here. And gain his way back through the field as he's on the inside of Frosty. But Frosty determined to hold on to the position. And they go off and is Oren out of the race? No! He just about keeps his tyre. But that has caused a crash. Oren and Frosty Life have come together. And Oren, 4 wins in the last 5 races, finds himself last. It's an awful restart for the Aston Martin. Seb, it's Wonderland at the moment for him. And I'm so surprised that didn't cause a safety car. VSC both have wing damage on their right. And I really don't know. That looked more Frosty's fault because Oren, I don't know. They must have connected, gone right into the wall. I really thought Oren could have lost his tyre there. It was such a... You wait for it to see if the game damage model was going to do anything. And they both connect. Frosty may have gone a bit right. Oren was just having an awful time since the restart. And how is he going to bounce back? He needs a safety car at this rate. And his whole hard journey to the end is not going to work now. And it might not be the last time these two fight as well on track. That has really been a certain point in the championship. So we have battles here. Nick trying to get in front of Jack, who's gaining on Chaz. He's been absolutely left by Morgan, who's on the back of Eggy, who's the gap between him and Seb has doubled. So Morgan should be in front of the Mercedes by turn 1, but who's going to be P4 into turn 1. Chaz, Jack or Nick. But yeah, that is a huge moment in the championship. Oren down, not scoring points at the moment. Seb out in front. This is exactly what he needs. And Oren, as Morgan does get into P2 very easily. As Oren currently losing 25 points. As Chaz goes defensive to Jack, who's going to try around the outside. A little bit of tyre banging as Nick decides now's the time to gain. But they both have DRS. Nick has the slip of Chaz, but he can't break as late as Jack, who does go later, but Nick hangs it around the outside. As there is slight contact between the two as they connect as well, which loses them a bit of time, but they still face forward. So Chaz lives to fight another day, going off a little bit again. So Jack still in front of Nick, who is 6 seconds off the lead. Chubbs to 7th. Christian finds himself in 8th on the grass there. May have gone a bit too hot into 4. Laser, I believe, pitted. Frosty obviously pitted. Oren, if a safety car comes out, that is his saviour. So Morgan, 1.9, who's showing really good race pace at the moment. He's gaining on Seb, 10th by 10th. So Morgan and Seb know this is a big opportunity to gain on one of their rivals. Morgan knows if they finish like this, he would take back second in the championship because he's still part of this battle. But to gain on Seb, he would have to beat him. Otherwise, Chaz sped in the pit lane and he's given up in his 100th race. So that does promote Oren back into the pit lane. That promotes Oren back into the points. 1.4 now. And Seb hasn't actually got that much battery, whilst Morgan has a lot. Unless Seb made a big mistake, Morgan is taking a lot of time out of Seb. The gap, 23 points between these two. And if it were to finish like this, it would go up to 30. Or if they swapped, it could go down to 16. It's a very major 14-point swing. Oren, fastest lap of the race. Trying to gain on Frosty for another point. 1 second now between Morgan and Seb. He could get DRS by the end here. 11 laps on those mediums and Seb looks like he's struggling. Eggy would be great if he could get a podium, but I would really watch out for Small Nick. That's the big underlier in this race at the moment. Will he pit again? Will he go to the end? Same with Jack, I believe. Oh, no, Jack has... No, so it's just Nick. And here we go. Morgan has the battery. He has DRS. Will he gain enough into turn 1? Is he going to send it on Seb? No, he's going to stay behind for now. But he's letting Seb know he's there. Piling the pressure. Will he have a chance into 2? He is blasting his battery. But he's going to stay behind for now as well. So, Morgan showing really good pace. Closing up to the back of the leader. Morgan dropped down to 10th at the start of the race. And finds himself on lap 12. Fighting for the lead once again. It's been a brilliant comeback job so far for him. And Oren's going to need the mother of comeback jobs to gain back to the front. Eggy just patiently waiting in P3, but Nick is closing down on him a bit and bringing Jack along with him. Chubster a bit on his own in 6. Christian, as Jack now gets another penalty. At this rate, Oren's just got to bide his time. He can't really do anything besides get past Frosty. He can wait for these lot to pit, I guess, but can he really take mediums? 25 odd laps? Probably not. Anyway, it's been good for Seb to lead the Grand Prix the whole race, but it might come to an end now. Morgan gaining in the slip. DRS open. Battery blasting. Morgan will take the lead of the Hungarian Grand Prix. And Seb's lead comes to an end. Morgan on the hards finds himself now in P1. And Seb will try his very best to come back at him and stick with him. But for Seb's sake, he's just going to have to pit early, get the undercut, have a big enough gap, so when Morgan probably pits for mediums, he doesn't gain into that gap. Because this is more the time to be thinking about the stops, as Small Nick now only 1.1 to Eggy. Sliding through turn 4, as Jack has been left. May have made a mistake, actually. And Seb just has to try and stick with Morgan. The gap closing between Frosty and Oren. And now, wait, who's got the 2 points to Oren. Seb 80, 16, 13. It would go back up to 29 points between Seb and Oren. And Morgan would close it from 23 down to 16. Big shifts in the championship at the moment from the Hungarian Grand Prix. We were here thinking there was a potential for Oren, as Frosty gets a penalty, so that will promote Oren to 9th. That the potential for Oren to make it level pegging at the halfway stage at the moment. Seb has been given a lifeline to extend his gap by nearly double to Oren, as Nick does get in front of Eggy, but Eggy, late on the brakes, holds on to 3rd. Now Nick will try the switchback on the Mercedes driver, and they're going to remain wheel to wheel into turn 2. Later on the brakes goes Nick round the outside. Eggy just nearly avoiding contact. That is brilliant from Nick to go fully around the outside and gets into P3. Great driving from the pair of them, and Nick finds himself onto the podium as he is the dark horse in this race. Only 5 seconds off the lead. Doesn't necessarily have to pit again, and you never know. Nick, who has 1 win to his name in Las Vegas last year, could be looking for a second. The reserve in the McLaren at the moment. Seb has lost DRS to Morgan. Morgan, who's just got good race pace at the moment. Fastest lap. Seb's still quicker than Morgan. It's just those mediums are just wasting away. And do we see Seb into the pit lane? Yes, we do. Seb taking it very cautiously and slowly. So easy to speed. Hopefully he doesn't. All good. Eggy stays out. Doesn't have the DRS. Has missed out. So, where will Seb emerge? As he goes into his box. He'll probably emerge behind Chubstone in front of Christian. It is the hard compound tyres for the championship leader. And now he's got to absolutely leg it to gain as much as he can. Undercut Morgan. Get the gap. He's in free air. 20 to go. Eggy's still 1.3 behind Small Nick. Obviously going to have to pit soon. Morgan will be going long. I think hard soft is probably out of the question for him. As we have a yellow. Oh, it is unfortunately Jack who's gone round at turn 4. He's carried on. No damage. Must have gone for a spin then, as that will show himself in front of Seb soon. So if Seb can gain enough by the end of the lap, he can gain some DRS as well on the Mercedes, who's promoted. Chubbs to the 4th. Never mind. Jack is off into the grass. Frosty, another penalty. Lost his end plate. And Jack, his race is falling apart now. Gone off it again. So probably we'll have to pit soon to change that wing. Avoids the barrier. Eggy's in then. Make sure not to speed. All good. Chubster stays out again. Seb will be pushing. And Oren right on the back of Frosty. Passing the corner where they had their collision. As Eggy pits for the hards. Seb will fly past. And Eggy will rejoin as Mercedes are going to have to... Well, not necessarily stack, but I'm sure they'll have to wait up for a good second. There we go. Christian also in. At the moment, everyone who's in the race scoring points. Changing the wing, as Jack has unfortunately retired as well. So then there were 9. Oren is in front of Frosty already. Trying to hold off. The gap staying constant at the top. As Laser has 7/10 to Eggy as rejoined. Right, so we lost Gekabel, who crashed at turn 4, brought out the first safety car. We lost Chaz, who gave up in the pit lane, and now we've lost Jack, who gave up in the pit lane. Then there were 9. Christian, who caused the big calamity at turn 1, still in this race and still on for points. And Frosty in P8 at the moment. Oren, 7th at the moment. Isn't actually too bad, but don't know if those mediums are going to go all the way, as we are about to hit the halfway stage, as Morgan pits onto the mediums, not really even at the halfway stage, because it's only lap 17. Morgan's going to have to go 18 laps on mediums. That's going to be a stint in a bit. But where does Seb emerge compared to Morgan? It's going to be close between the Alpine and the RB. Seb's going to brake later to go around the outside of the Alpine. Now switches to see if he can get the momentum. But Morgan is still in front of the RB on the better tyres. And that was probably the lap to pit to cover off the RB. One more lap, and Seb would have been ahead. And you know how difficult it is to overtake round here. So Morgan stays in front. They are 13 seconds off Nick, who doesn't have to pit. So 18 laps, 13 seconds. The hunt begins now. And if Seb can stay with Morgan, they'll both be gaining on him. Eggy, 8 seconds off these lot. Laser in 5th. Oren, 15 seconds off these guys. Christian pits at Oren up to 6th now. So he's still come back and gained quite a few points due to the people behind him. But I believe that's everyone now who has made a stop. Yep. And Oren would have to take these mediums 26 laps. Same with Frosty, to be fair. So at the worst, he'd probably be 8th. Time penalties for Christian, 3 second. Frosty, 6 second. Laser, 6 second. Chubster gets his first penalty too. My screen went black there. That's the second time that's happened in the last hour. That's kind of concerning. Anyway, I think it was 13 seconds, no? Between Nick and Morgan. If it was, Morgan's just taken 2 seconds out of Nick there. But if it was 11, then it stayed how it is. I've actually forgotten. But I'm sure Morgan will be gaining a lot of time. And Seb is sticking with Morgan. On both new rubber, they should be pretty similar. But yeah, you can see Morgan is really confident through there as the gap gets a bit bigger. They've gained a whole second on Eggy as Chubster and Christian fight for 8th and 9th. And Christian has lost the place to the Sauber. And Oren's going to be praying, well, one, safety car, but as a backup, Laser to get 3 more penalties so he can gain another place. But at the moment, it's all about pushing until the very end. Can Morgan catch Small Nick? He's gained a whole second since it was 11. And at this rate, he's definitely going to catch. But will he have any tyres left at the end? If Seb can stick within the DRS, it might be good for him as well, because he will have tyres left at the end. But he's literally a second now. He's going to have to blast all his battery just to keep with the Alpine. Frosty, another time penalty. Christian, another time penalty. And look, Seb, from 1 second, already half a second behind the Alpine driver. And look, he gets another dose of the DRS. I think it was 13 seconds as Morgan has taken so much time out of Small Nick. His tyres, 14 laps old. They're going to be 30 laps old by the end. And at the moment, it's a case if these guys can catch. But Nick could still pit as Chubster gets in front of Frosty Life now. Pretty easy pickings for the Sauber on the move. 3-car fight there. Seb's still sticking with the Alpine. Morgan, who wants to win again in EXFL Tier 2, keep his hopes alive after a disappointing P4 in Britain. Just missing out on the podium. He'll definitely want this podium. As the gap's gone down to 8.4 now. These two really showing to be the class of the field. Seb, fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Has obviously blasted a lot of battery. Morgan's nearly got a full bar of battery. Oren, who I said has won 4 of the last 5 races. The one race he didn't win, he finished second. And the guy who won was this man, Morgan, who won the Spanish Grand Prix. Morgan, who also won the Chinese Grand Prix. As Christian and Frosty fight into the penultimate corner. And then I believe into the pit lane. No, just taking different lines, really. It's got the DRS, does Frosty, as it's now 7 seconds. They are eating into that gap between Morgan to Nick. But Morgan really has to hope he has life at the end. Otherwise, Seb could snatch the win, and it's another crucial moment. I'm sure for Oren, he'll be hoping Morgan gets the win, not Seb. For his sake. Oren only gained 4/10 on Laser. Laser actually has some good race pace here. As obviously Oren's mediums are wearing away. Seb closing in on Morgan. He may even try to overtake him. The gap is 6 seconds now. Morgan looking for his 3rd win of the season. Seb looking for his 3rd win of the season. Seb, who won the opening round and round 3. Morgan, who won round 5 and round 8. Oren, who's got double their wins, or combined together, has 4 wins. Gekkeberg and Ben have the other 2. So I'm sure Seb would like a third. And his 5th overall. These two, as a... Oh. There we go. Seb and Morgan both chasing their 5th win in their Tier 2 career. But who's going to get it first? This will be quite some drive if Morgan can hold it together. It's not really a case if they're going to catch, it's when they're going to catch. And now the new story is, will his mediums be intact to the end, or will Seb gain it back? It's reminiscent of China when these two were fighting for the win in the final few stages. And Morgan played the DRS game right to stay behind on the last lap and get it. Here, different story. Because if you get it at turn 1 and are ahead at turn 2, there's not really anywhere else you can get past unless it's a send. 4.5 seconds. They are taking time out of Nick, who's just trying to make it and struggle. But then again, look how much battery Nick has. He's not absolutely pushing those tyres. He's looking after them. Yeah, Nick in the 119s, Morgan in the 117s, taking 2 seconds out of the McLaren per lap. So in a lap or two, really, they will be on the back of the McLaren. I'm sure if Nick pitted now, he could definitely probably see himself 4th by the end if he could gain on Eggy. Yeah, Nick does have another set of mediums if this isn't going to work. But at the moment, he's leading the Hungarian Grand Prix. At the moment, it has gone so unfortunately wrong for Oren, who could have been right there. Oren, who, before the main incident, was behind Nick. So, at this very moment, Morgan would probably have caught Oren. So, that whole pitting under the safety car for hards to go to the end actually didn't work out. Even for Nick, who was the furthest in front. Oren, who's only gained another 8/10 on laser at the moment. Pulling away from these guys. Frosty still has left the session. .3 then between Morgan and Nick. The gap was 13 seconds. And within the span of a handful of laps, they've been absolutely rapid. And Seb has done a brilliant job to keep with Morgan. And Seb, crucially, also getting that fastest lap point. But we still don't know, really, Seb and Morgan's warnings. Yeah, screw it. Okay, Morgan has 1 warning, Seb has none. Fair play to these two. 1.9 now. So this time next lap, they'll probably be within DRS. So look at them. They've both just got full battery. And they're just pulling away from the rest. Eggy, once again, just finds himself a bit on his own, but in a good place. And I'm sure Nick, his main thought is, look, there's a 13-second gap behind these two. I could still get a podium. And it would probably be best if I didn't pit. Seb just staying behind Morgan for now. .5 then between the two. They're gaining less and less each lap, obviously, as their tyres start to wear as well. Mainly Morgan's. As they're coming up to a lapped car of Frosty. That isn't going to give Nick DRS, though. It's been a really unfortunate race for Oren. 6 podiums in a row since China. If he got on the podium today, he would have equalled the all-time record that was set by Seb earlier this season, who equalled Joe from Season 4 of 7 podiums in a row. But unfortunately, it looks like that's going to come to an end for Oren, who's been driving brilliantly in recent races. But today, it just kind of all unfortunately fell apart. And in the second half of the season, he's going to have to begin his challenge to Seb once again to gain. But at the moment, it looks like Morgan will snatch back runner-up in the standings. that he lost after Britain last week. They have caught Nick, and when they start lap 25, Morgan could be seen taking the lead away, and will Seb also gain enough momentum? They have full bars of battery, and this is where the change of leadership happens. Lap 25, Morgan to the inside, takes the lead away from Nick, and now Seb, this is the crucial part. How quickly can he get past Nick? And will Nick hold Seb up enough that it allows Morgan to get out of 1 second? At the moment, Morgan holds onto the lead. Nick's still there. But Seb, when will he try to take the move? He's got to be cautious, but he's got to be quick. But at the moment, he just can't find a gap, and will hope and pray that Nick keeps with the Alpine driver. But Nick is all over the shop, as he still is 4 tenths behind. The rest still out on their own, but the top three fighting as they are. As Morgan pushing as hard as he can to break out of 1 second to Nick's old hard compound tyres. But luckily, for Seb's sake, Nick is keeping within, even though Nick is all over the shop. And he will still have the DRS. Seb has a lot more battery than Nick. Oren does get that 3 second eventually. It's not going to really change much. He's going to have to pit again. Oh, there we go again. Oren could snatch the fastest lap from Seb if he does pit again as well. Seb now has to hope he gains enough in the slipstream to take P2 away from Nick, and hope Nick doesn't overtake Morgan. Seb is gaining as we have a yellow of Christian. Seb to the inside. He will go for it and will take P2. Nick will try the switchback for all his might, but Seb has the momentum. He has P2, and now he has DRS on Morgan. And these two, like it was in China, are going to fight for the win. Nick will do all he can to stick with, and maybe he can stick with. But I'm sure in due time he'll probably fall behind. But it's 13 seconds with 10 laps to go to Eggy, so Nick could still hang on to this podium, as there he goes, wide. Nearly a second. There is the second. So there the top two go. Sliding around as Morgan. Any one of these laps, as Oren is in the pit lane, will pit onto the soft compound tyres, and will try to push all the way to the end to gain back the time he will lose. Christian into the pits. 2 pits, so Oren only really lost 1 place because of that. And as long as he gets within... As long as he gets within 3 seconds of Chubster... Oh no, they've got the same penalties. Never mind. Oren has to gain 16 seconds in 10 laps on Chubster to get 2 more points, 2 crucial points. Laser Gamer, at the moment though, is currently holding down P5. That's gone a bit unnoticed once all the stops have come into play. Laser Gamer is currently P5 as Christian rejoins, also on the softs. Actually, how long has he been on those tyres? 16 laps, so he's going to have to go quite the distance as well. But at the moment, P5 would be definitely a career best for the Ferrari driver. He qualified 5th on his debut in Vegas last season and got a few points. I think P9 and P10 in the last 2 races. I think his highest result may only be P9 or P8. But at the moment, he is running in P5, which is a great result. He's got good pace. And while his wheel-to-wheel battling, as he goes onto the grass there, hasn't been exquisite, he's managed to stay alive, as that's probably a warning. Oh, never mind, Chubster's pitted. Oren doesn't need to gain. So, Oren back up into 6th, doesn't lose any time, and may still pick up an extra point for his fastest lap troubles. As look at that, he's only 400ths off Seb's fastest lap, and I believe that was before he pitted onto the softs. Oh, no, as soon as I say that, Laser's gone for a spin. But there is a massive gap behind to Oren of half a minute. So I don't think Laser will really lose out due to that. Only lost about 4 or 5 seconds. A safety car would not really change it for the top 4. They're going to stay the top 4 because of penalties. But it would bring Oren back into it a little. As Seb and Morgan, the laps are ticking off. And when do the DRS games start playing? Does Seb just decide to sit behind the whole time, get 100%, blast it all into turn 1, but Morgan will do the exact same thing. Morgan, who has half his battery, Seb, who has 80% at the moment. As Nick has fallen out of a second, but actually he hasn't fallen massively off their pace. Only 7 more tenths. As Oren, there it is, fastest lap of the race by a whole second to these guys. Obviously being on the softs helps. And that is 1 extra point for Oren in P6. So he takes 9 points away at the moment. Seb will extend 9 points on Oren. So the 13-point gap between them will go up to 22. So it'll still be under a win. It looks a lot better than when Oren was down in 11th. Morgan, though, at the moment, if he wins. But the two are battling, so we'll decide that later. Seb takes the lead away from Morgan on lap 29. And now we see a change of leadership. And now we're going to see them fight. Onto the grass comes Morgan a little bit. Do not know if they're in a call, but they have had some great fights all season. And luckily, it's never got 2 tenths between the pair. Austria, China, they've had so many great battles. And Hungary looks like it will hopefully be another one. But we are approaching the halfway stage of the season. And these two both have a chance to become world champion in the end. So when is the time to take a risk? Because a win here and second place is a huge 14-point deficit. 7 points his way. 7 points he loses. And vice versa. Finishes like this. Seb extends his gap from Morgan from 23 to 30. Which will be over a win. But if Morgan wins, Seb, the gap would go from 23 to 16. But here's the key thing. Has Morgan's mediums ran out? Is Seb on for the win now? Because it's now a second. And it looks like Morgan's struggling. Those mediums look like they have fallen off. And that could be the race victory for Seb. Done and dusted. Seb blasts his battery to stay ahead of Morgan. They have similar levels now. Morgan, who looks like he has, unfortunately, stopped too early. Used his mediums up. And it looks like Seb, at the moment, has played his cards right. The championship leader, proving why he is the championship leader. And at the moment, he's looking good for a 3rd win and a 5th career Tier 2 victory with 5 laps to go. Oren, who was half a minute behind Laser, now 17 seconds. If he can somehow eke out 14 seconds in 5 laps to gain and get another place on Laser, that would be crazy. But at the moment, Seb will have 30 points in front of Morgan. And we'll have... Well, now it's 25 to Oren's 9. So 16 to the 13. Oh, it's going wide there is Morgan. Look at it. It's 2 seconds now. Morgan's tyres have fallen off. So as Eggy now gets a 3 second. So that does cement Nick on the podium. He's driven a brilliant race. So Seb will go into the halfway stage, 29 points in front of Oren, 1 point in front of Morgan. As he's pitting is Morgan to go for the fastest lap, but isn't that going to lose him time? No way will he gain that pit stop back. But looks like maybe Morgan couldn't take those to the end. And Morgan's going to lose even more time. This could promote Eggy onto the podium. But we'll have to see what Morgan can do in the last few laps. Who's going to try and take fastest lap away. But he's just thrown away 5 or 6 points in doing so. So he comes out P4. He's got to gain 7 seconds in about 5 laps. Look at that. The top 4 all separated by 7 seconds. So now Nick is P2. Eggy P3. But Morgan has to gain 4 seconds in 5 laps because of the penalty. And you can already see how much time he's taken out of it. Eggy, who hasn't been on the podium since he got 3 podiums in a row in his first 3 races, would be on for another. And I'm sure he would love it. But he's just got to keep attacking the corners and hope the laps pass as quickly as possible. Oren still needs to take 10 seconds out of Laser and hope he gets another penalty by the end. But at the moment, it's looking great for Seb. Missed out on pole by a 10th, but has played his cards perfectly. The most experienced Tier 2 driver in history has got 4 laps left before he can end the first half of the season with a 29-point lead ahead of Oren. But if Morgan takes the fastest lap point away from Oren, then it's 17 points he gains, which means Seb would have a 30-point lead ahead of Oren with 11 races to go. And that does certainly widen the chances when it was looking to get ever closer. And Oren just has unfortunately made a big mistake today that has cost him a lot. Morgan didn't work out with the mediums, and he's really, I mean, he'll only lose P2. Let's face it. Oh, as Nick also gets a penalty. I was going to say, let's face it, Morgan's definitely going to get back that podium. He's nearly back within 3 seconds already. It's very unsure. Probably not. He'll get second back. So he has thrown away technically 2 points if he does get the fastest lap. But if he doesn't, he's thrown away 3 points. But it may have been a cover because those mediums may not have made it to the end. Oren's taking about 2 seconds a lap. It's going to be close. It's going to be a mighty effort if he can get P5, can Oren. 2 crucial points. But at the moment, Seb, no worries in the world. And I believe no chance of a safety car now as we have 3 laps to go. Nick has had a moment there. And that's going to lose him quite some time. That's going to allow Eggy to gain. And crucially, Morgan. And if he catches him at the right time, maybe this time next lap, Morgan could have DRS. And potentially, you never know if Morgan could get P2 back. This would be amazing if he could. We have a yellow. And it is Oren. Pushed too hard. Has now damaged the same area where he went off. And that is P6 at best going to be for Oren. Laser is going to keep hold of P5. And now he just has to make sure Chubster doesn't close in. I know he has another penalty, but still. What a weird, crazy race. Frosty looks like he's going to get disqualified at this rate. So Christian will get 8th as he's getting lapped, I believe. Chubster 7th, Oren 6th, Laser 5th. Morgan, he has caught Eggy, but halfway through the lap, which is actually going to hold him up a bit. And he still needs another 2 seconds if he wants P2 back. So Morgan may have to try a move unorthodoxly. But he's staying behind. Eggy trying to push as hard as he can with 70% battery. Will Morgan try it to the inside? He has to try to see if he can't get DRS. Yes, he goes to the inside and takes the podium away from Eggy. He couldn't sit behind and wait for the DRS. It would have lost him too much time. So he's got 2 laps to gain 1.6 seconds on Nick, whose tyres, I'm sure, are screaming. And I'm pretty sure Morgan can do this. What looked like he'd thrown away the points. Unbelievably, he's pitted for a second time. And he's going to manage to gain that time back. But I don't think he got the fastest lap. No, he missed out. So just 7 more tenths. And Morgan will be back into P2. So 23 points will go up to 30 between Seb and Morgan. Oren will still have the fastest lap. 16 points. So Oren will be 29 points behind Seb. Morgan will be 30 points behind Seb. And Seb will take the win. There it is. It's under 3 seconds. Morgan just has to make sure he himself doesn't get a penalty. As he was on 1 warning when I checked. Don't know if he's on a second. As Christian is moving out the way. Seb, we see, around the final couple corners. He's going to begin the last lap in a couple moments' time. And Morgan may even catch Nick by the end. Laser gets another penalty. And unfortunately, because Oren lost it, if he didn't, Oren may have actually managed to get P5. But Oren just trying to hold on with the wing damage because you can see Chubster gaining. But Chubster not only has to overtake him, he has to get a 3-second gap with only a lap and a bit to go. Final lap then for Sebastian Ferrugia. Ferrugia, whatever it is. Smolnik trying to hold on to second on track. Looks like he'll just about keep it, but Morgan is brilliantly going to come back up to finish second. He was 10th at the end of the opening lap after Christian's shenanigans. Morgan, who brilliantly drives through the field, just like we've seen Oren do, just like we've seen Seb do. They are the 3 who are going to take it to the end, with one of them becoming champion. But Seb, after quite a few races of him seeing that big gap of, 40-odd points close down to 13, he's responded. He's needed a bit of luck, but he's also made the most of his strategy. And every race he does, a bit more experience, a bit more thinking, a bit more planning, and a bit more hope goes into it. Chubster is in front of Oren, but now just has to make sure he doesn't lose 3 seconds. Seb then, round the final couple corners. It's been a while since he's won a race now. Round 3, 8 races later, the championship leader is back on the top step of the podium. Seb wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. Smolnik will come home. 4P2 will Morgan try and get him over the line. He's going to go round the outside. Is he daring to Morgan to get P2? Yes, he is on track. Morgan, a brilliant stint, deserves him with P2. And the reward of a podium, Nick gets it. P3. That was a brilliant stint from Morgan to get P2 at the end. Eggy will come home for a solid P4. Laser gamer then. As looks like Oren will just hold on to P6. Just got to make sure. There we go. That's the confirmation. Laser gamer goes off there. Doesn't matter. Laser gamer's going to come around the final corner. Lucas, P5, his best result in Tier 2 so far. It's P5 for Ferrari, and it's P5 for Lucas. And Oren will look to be coming home in 6 with the fastest lap point. A big race in terms of the championship. As it look, it nearly was 3 seconds. So Chubster will come home for P7, as Oren will take P6. Seb lifts the trophy. And now to the 4 drivers. Each on 4 wins. Seb was the first to get his 5th. That record of 8 wins in EXFL Tier 2, well, we still got 11 left. Would Seb be able to break that record? Or at least first equal it? We'll wait and find out. But it's Seb and Morgan, the top 2. What a brilliant stint at the end for Morgan to pit whilst being second and still get second on track. There is the race result then. Oren, really unfortunate from pole to finish 6th in the end. Eggy gets 4th. Good round of points for him. Laser Gamer will be definitely happy with 5th. Chubster more points. Christian more points. Frosty will probably get disqualified. Jack unfortunately DNF'd. Gekabel crashed, and a 100th race to forget for Chaz unfortunately. But I'm sure we'll be back in the second half to fight for more. Right. Right, let's get the top 3 in. I don't think I can interview Nick, but I can certainly interview Morgan and Seb. As we have joining the party, P2 at the moment, just still waiting for Seb. But are you there, Morgan?
Yep. Yep.
Cool. Have you included your audio?
I have.
Alright, we'll start with you then. So we'll just wait for Seb. I just got to say, what a stint at the end. That was brilliant to see.
I do appreciate it.
Anyway, so you qualified 3rd? Yep, 3rd. And then, unfortunately, as there's Seb, into turn 1, Christian was a bit too reminiscent of 21, and I think he just went straight on and hit you. Did you get any damage from that?
No, thankfully.
No. Anyway, you dropped down to 10th. Then there was a safety car. You stayed out. You made your way back through. You had amazing pace to take the lead away from Seb. And then you pitted quite early. I'm pretty sure that was to cover off Seb. And then when it was just you two, after you'd caught Nick really quickly, it looked like, obviously, you just didn't have the tyres. Seb pulled away. And then you pitted for softs, probably to get fastest lap. And also, your mediums may have not made it to the end. But then I was certainly thinking, has he just thrown away some points? But amazingly, brilliantly, last corner, last lap, you got back into the position you were anyway. Just take us through the race from your POV. How was it?
Stressful, if I'm honest. You know, starting on the hards was not my intention. I messed up the strategy. I was meant to start on the medium compound, but then it put me onto the hards. So I had to adapt. Well, I would say it cost me the win, but you know, who knows what would have happened if I didn't get taken out into turn 1. So, and my engineer was telling me that I had to box if I wanted to come out ahead, but then my tyres were most likely die to the end, and hopefully I'd need to like Checo Perez, Sebastian for the whole final 5 laps, which I just wouldn't be able to. So I was like, I might as well box into the soft compound tyre and try and take fastest lap, which I wasn't able to do. But like you said, I was able to secure P2 on track as well, surprisingly, like you also said. Um, let's say P2 is not bad, could have been worse, but yeah.
Yeah, you managed to gain on Eggy. You had to overtake him before the DRS, otherwise you would have lost some time, and it's a good job you did make the move. Nick did make a mistake into the last corner, I think on the penultimate lap, lost him a couple seconds, which allowed you to gain on him, because I think he was going to get that removed actually, but because you got in front of him anyway, it doesn't matter. But that was a brilliant move around the outside to get P2 on track. It was looking a bit close between you and Seb, but obviously ultimately... I think in every scenario towards the end, Seb was going to win because of your tyres. So that 23-point gap you were trailing now becomes 30 points as we reach the halfway stage. Oren, who had a really unfortunate race today, loses 16 points to Seb, which makes him 29 points behind Seb. So you're only 1 point behind Oren. So both of you are still the chasers to Seb. But yeah, we've reached the halfway stage. Just summarise for us. How's the first half been for you, and what do you expect and hope to do in the second?
The first half was it's there's a word I'm trying to use, but I'm gonna just say it simply. Try and summing everyone up. We've had I don't know how many races we've had in total, but
11.
11. There you go. We've had 11 races. I think they've been great races, if I'm honest, and entertaining. Obviously, there's been ups and downs, but for me, I feel like it was just trying to figure out who my main competition is, and obviously, but there's only really two main men for that. But so next, well, after the week break, hopefully I can crack down, do more practicing when I get back from holiday, and just see if I can take that championship.
Of course, because I think you're missing next race, aren't you?
Uh,
Or is it
yeah,
Netherlands or something?
I
Yeah. So
am. Wait, no, because if we've got a break,
yeah, we're not racing next week.
yeah, so I'll miss next week's race, which is as in like the week says Belgium, no?
In 2 weeks' time, yeah, you'll miss Belgium. Okay.
I miss Belgium, but I'm backwards on
Right.
board, baby.
Right. Okay. So the maximum it could go to is 55 points, but that would still leave you with 10 races to try and close that. You'd be in like a Norris situation, kind of. But for now, we'll just see how it goes. Anything could happen at Spa. And yeah, very well done on this first half of the season. You're one of 3 men, let's face it, who is going to become champion at the end of the season. So I wish you the best of luck. And I think
Thank
out
you.
of the 3, you've got the most to do. So, but I'm sure you can do it.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to our race winner, Seb. Are you there, mate? Here we go again. Have you got your audio, by the way?
Yeah, yeah. It's good.
All right.
That's it.
Sebastian Ferrugia, you have just won the Hungarian Grand Prix, the 3rd time this season you've won, and your 5th in your Tier 2 career. What a great drive from you. P2 in qualifying, just over a 10th behind Oren. I'm sure you gave it your all.
Yeah.
How was the lap?
The lap was good. I think it could have been a bit better, but I don't think I could have got pole. But yeah, like obviously no offense to everybody else, but I think with the times, me and Oren were setting in a time trial and everything else respectively, I think it was going to be one of us two on pole. It's quite ridiculous what we're trying to push each other towards. But yeah, apart from that.
Anyway,
Yes,
the
decent
start
lap.
happened. You stayed where you were. Luckily, you two avoided, unlike Morgan, avoided Christian. I don't know how that looked in your mirrors.
I knew that was going to happen.
Oh,
I wanted it. Not wanted. I needed a good start.
yep.
And then,
It reminded me of you in Italy a couple of seasons back.
Anyway,
Anyway,
I mean, if you're going off of history, you won't get a penalty for it.
going off the safety car as well, when Kian crashed, you decided to pit. No, Oren decided to pit. You decided to stay out. Obviously, what happened to Oren, it was unfortunate. The collision with Frosty that sent him off, had to pit again, and there were no more safety cars later on. So you were on the mediums. The safety car obviously helped your stint a bit longer. You pitted for hards to try and undercut Morgan, as you Morgan had pretty good pace to keep up and overtake you, and then you were trying to stick with, lost the gap, DRS, so pitted, and then came out just behind Morgan. Did you know when you came out behind, you were thinking Morgan's tyres are definitely going to fall off towards the end? Did you think?
I physically couldn't drive any more than 14 laps.
That's what I was saying.
Early.
As soon as Morgan was gaining on you, overtook you, I was like, surely those mediums are dead. No way is Seb losing that much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fair. It was so obvious as well when they died. The lap you could
it was
tell.
like one of the with the tires, it was just really just knowing the pit window really.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Also another big thing was trying not to get any warning, because that was quite scary. Which luckily,
did you get any in the end?
None. Somehow.
Wow. That's a brilliant drive. Yeah, that's what I pointed out in the race. I checked on like lap 20. Morgan had one warning, you had none. I was like, fair play, these two. DRSing one another to gain on Nick, which was inevitable. You were going to get him. But and then yeah, you just kind of got past Morgan, pulled away.
I knew I had to just sit behind Morgan. I knew like the tires physically can't go to the end. I was a second a lap slower.
Yeah, because Morgan pitted just before the halfway mark on two mediums. It just didn't seem like it was going to work, unfortunately.
Obviously, I had my very, very good luck charm, Logan, last season's winner in my party.
Yep.
And
I pointed that out as well. P1 this season has P1 to coach him, and P2 this season has P2 to coach him. But yeah, you needed that kind of race. You've seen your gap from nearly 70 at least to Oren, but 40 or something at least to second, go down to 13, and now it's more than doubled. You lead the championship now by 29 points to Oren, 30 points to Morgan, and I'm sure that's a lot of weight off the shoulders.
Yeah, it's a lot of weight. Obviously, I can now go into this week, practice a bunch. No, I'm gonna spend some time with,
take a break,
friends and family.
That's good.
Loved ones.
We do enter the first half.
I'll be straight back on it the Monday before the Belgium.
That's a champion mentality, and racer.
I can't lie. I will be on it on Sunday.
Fair. Right. So, same question I asked Morgan. How do you think the first half has gone, and what do you think and hope to achieve in the second half?
Well, the first 6 races went beautifully. Didn't finish off the podium for 6 races. Couldn't ask for a better start. Then Imola happened. Not very good. And then where else did I finish?
Canada. Spain.
Spain. Yeah. Those 2 races happened. Let's just wipe them out of everybody's memory. Apart from those 2 races, I've been very consistently good, and I'm now on my 2 races back on the podium. No,
I think you've had 8 podiums this season. You must have got 4th in one of them.
No,
in one of the races, I think.
I think so.
But anyway, 8 or 9, whatever it is. 3 wins, a bunch of podiums. You lead the championship like you have been doing since the opening round. 30 points.
Now
in
this spot of leading, just consistency, and I need to do what I did at the beginning of the season coming out of the summer break.
Yep, you've reached the halfway mark. You just got to do it all over again, and we'll see in 12 weeks' time who becomes champion. At the moment, Seb, who's led the championship for 11 races now, he's at the peak of his formality in his Tier 2 career, the most experienced Tier 2 driver, racing his best, but he's also against the best of Morgan and Oren, who are going to be chasing him down. Morgan, who unfortunately will miss Belgium, so it's a big chance for Oren and Seb to pull away, but I'm sure Morgan will, like he said, be back for the Dutch Grand Prix, hopefully onwards to gain it back. Oren has really got to bounce back after some great form, 5 top 2 finishers to finish 6th in the end. Big blow to him, but if his season in the second half is anything like the last 5 races, I'm sure he'll be back in no time, putting the pressure on Seb. But for now, we've still got a battle on our hands, even if it's a bit of a gap now. That has been the first half of EXFL Tier 2 Season 9. What a first half it's been, and I'm sure the second half will be even better. Well done to Seb on the win today. Well done to Morgan on a brilliant second as well, and also Nick on P3. We will see you in 2 weeks' time for the Belgian Grand Prix.
I love Venus.